Life and realities of the U.S. Beyond the Hollywood myth, anyone who grew up on a diet of cowboy films will have the image of the U.S. Cavalry, guns ablazing, dressed in striking blue uniforms, red bandanas and yellow hats, chasing the... If you're squeamish, please look away. In 1865, the American Civil War ended. The country was in recession and broke. Disbanding the huge armies left over from the war was a priority, and there were very few remaining roles left in the army, and they were highly sought after. One of these was the worst job in the army: cavalry deployed on the plains. After the American Civil War, the number of regiments deployed on the plains was increased from 6 to 10. 2 of the regiments were black soldiers, and these were arguably the 2 best. With there being an overabundance of officers, getting into a regiment was incredibly difficult, and the promotion hopes? Terrible. After the war, an estimated 88% of officers were West Point graduates, and 12% enlisted men promoted during the Civil War. Between 1866 and 1890, it took roughly 25 years to get promoted from lieutenant to major. It was even more difficult for Confederate officers, who often had to join as NCOs or even enlisted men. If there were too many officers, there was a shortage of enlisted men. The proverbial bottom of the barrel was scraped, and the nuances in the law used. One such was the fact Indian Territory was technically outside the United States, so civil law didn't apply, and men convicted of crimes in the US weren't criminals on the plain, so on-the-run criminals provided an excellent source of recruits. Another was recent immigrants. On average, half the troopers were recent immigrants. In numerical order, the nationalities were Irish, and were Irish. Three professors, a doctor, a telegraph operator, a printer, an ivory carver, a young man of position trying to gain a commission, and a They would join the army to see themselves through the winter, then desert in summer, and next 1870s, cavalry received no training other than basic drill. This is quite amazing when you consider most recruits had never seen a horse, let alone ridden one. No riding training was provided whatsoever. When a trooper went on patrol, perhaps this was the first time he ever rode a horse. Hopefully he would have the luxury of weeks of uneventful patrolling and agony from saddle saws to learn horsemanship skills. But if he was unlucky enough to see trouble right away, he had big problems. Many cavalry died from disease as were killed by Indians. Life in the cavalry was harsh and not remotely romantic like in the movies. It was mostly for the dispossessed, criminals, the impoverished, or people who couldn't adjust to normality after the American Civil War. Pay was poor and prospects virtually nero. Fights ended in either death or victory, but despite this it wasn't very dangerous, with a death rate of just over 1 in 1,000.